Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Marwan bin Muhammad Fuzail. My metric number is 270451. We are from Group 2. Want to present case study about Longchamp. I want to start the presentation with introduction of the Longchamp case study. Longchamp is a French luxury leather company founded in Paris at 1948 by Jean Cassegrain. Jean Cassegrain produced the world's first luxury leather covered pipes, then expanded into small leather goods such as wallets, passport covers, and more. Longchamp launched its first women's handbag in 1971 and became one of France's leading leather goods makers. Longchamp used design creativity to reflect what is optimistic and luxurious, and Le Pliage is the most representative product. The company product include its innovative Le Pliage women's foldable handbag. The handbag was an instant hit and continues to be the company's best-selling product. Le Pliage signature design, which originated in nylon, has been reinvented and reinvented in countless shapes, patterns, colors, and fabrics. Diversity allows Longchamp to keep pace with the time, open up branch, and create more possibilities. The company today designs and manufactures a wide range of luxury goods including leather and canvas handbags, luggage, shoes, travel items, fashion accessories, and a line of ready-to-wear women designer clothing. The company does business in 80 countries through around 1,500 retail outlets. In the Longchamp case study, we have found out several problems in their business model. Problems that we discovered including currency fluctuation and higher import tax in China, high production costs in Longchamp, and do not classify based in customers' preference.
Good day everyone, my name is Anas Lisini, matrix note 26971. Today I will explain the problem statement in this case study. There are three problems facing by Longchamp. First is currency foundation and higher import tax in China. Second is high production cost in Longchamp. Third is Longchamp does not classify the product based on the customer preference. So the first one is currency foundation and higher import tax in China. So there are almost 80% of Longchamp product was purchased by Chinese customers were bought outside of China, mainly in Hong Kong and Europe. This means that the Longchamp products is denominated by China markets, and most of the Chinese customer is purchased the Longchamp products compared to the French customer, which are only 20% of French customer only. So currency foundation and higher import tax in China has caused the luxury good become 30% more expensive in China. This means that the price of the luxury good increased while the profits has decreased, and this has challenging Longchamp to profitability to run the Chinese franchise store as the currency foundation and high import tax has happened in China. So next is high production cost. Longchamp has hiring large number of employees, which are 2,700 people, and half of them are in workshop to produce all handbags. Besides that, Longchamp also built the sets workshop and half of the production in French. There are almost 30,000 until 50,000 products need to produce each day, and workers need to produce 90 until 100 different models per season. Other than that, there are a complex process to produce a bags. Each bag requires out to 250 separate processes, and most were undertaken by hand. Lastly, Longchamp has diversified their product range from bags into clothing in 2006 and shoes in 2012. There are higher production costs is happen in Longchamp due to large number of employees, a large number of workshops, a large number of products, and also different models need to produce. Then lastly is the complex process in order to process a bag. So this last one is Longchamp does not classify the product based on the customer preference. Okay, so Longchamp does not classify the product based on age and social class, which has caused they become difficult to expand the product lines in terms of pricing and customer preference. Nowadays, new generation want to create their uniqueness as bags has become one of the important accessories. And also the mass market has started to change. Mass market has start seeing their bags as fashion accessories. Although Longchamp already have some bags for men, but all quite basic and timeless compared to Coach and Gucci. And also the men have started to visit the Coach and Gucci as they are doing some freestanding men's store compared to the Longchamp. So this is how the Longchamp has cannot expand their markets into new men markets and also new generation. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tija Wei. We have solution to solve the problems. First problem is currency fluctuation and higher import tax in China. The solution to overcome this problem is demand and supply analysis theory. The role of government in reduce the tax. Import tax in China is high and cause the consumer brought Longchamp from other country. So government should reduce import tax on import product. This diagram is before tax reduce. Equilibrium point is at E0 when demand curve intersect with supply curve S0 and price at P0 and quantity at Q0. Area ABE is consumer surplus and area CDF is producer surplus. When import tax apply on product, supply curve shift to the left from S0 to S1 because the cost had increased and producer had to pay tax to government. New equilibrium point E1 cost when demand curve intersect with supply curve S1, price increase from P0 to P1, quantity decrease from Q0 to Q1, consumer surplus decrease to area A, and producer surplus decrease to area D. Consumer surplus loss area BE and producer surplus loss area CF. Area EF is deadweight loss. This diagram is after tax reduce. Equilibrium point is at E0 when demand curve intersect with supply curve S0 and price at P0 and quantity at Q0. Area ABE is consumer surplus and area CDF is producer surplus. When import tax apply on product but government had reduced tax, supply curve shift to the left in a small ration from S0 to S1 because the cost had increased and producer had to pay tax to government. New equilibrium point E1 cost when government curve intersect with supply curve S1, price increase from P0 to P1, quantity decrease from Q0 to Q1, consumer surplus decrease to area A and producer surplus decrease to area D. Consumer surplus lost area BE and producer surplus lost area CF. Area EF is deadweight loss. After comparing both diagrams, we can see that there is some difference when tax reduce. When tax is higher, consumer surplus and producer surplus will reduce. However, the deadweight loss will also reduce. Price increase and quantity decrease in a small ration in second diagram after government reduce import tax. Thus, people will buy less product from Longchamp since the import tax is higher. If government reduce the tax, people will prefer broad Longchamp in China.
The second problem of Longchamp is Longchamp has high production costs. Longchamp is a long-run company, which means all the inputs in the production are counted as variable costs. In order to maximize profits, the firm must minimize costs. Thus, to solve the problem, we use cost minimization theory, which is using marginal rate of technical to produce output at the minimum point. Cost minimization is the base rule used by producers to determine what mix of labor and capital produces output at a lower cost. First, we should find the total cost and the ISO cost line. There are two inputs production function, which is labor and capital in long run. The total cost of production is the sum of the cost of the labor input and the capital input. The formula of the total cost of the production function is CQ equal to WL plus RK, which W is wage rate of labor and R is the rental rate of capital. If we hold constant the total cost, we can use this equation to find ISO cost line. An ISO cost line is a graph of every possible combination of inputs that use the same cost of production. Based on the figure, let's consider the example of Longchamp factory where both capital and labor are utilized. Suppose the wage rate of labor is 20 euros per hour and the rental rate of capital is 10 euros per hour. If the total cost of production is 200 euros, the firm could be employing 10 hours of labor and no capital. 20 hours of capital and no labor, or any other combination of capital and labor for which the total cost is 200 euros. The slope of the isocost line is the ratio of the input prices, which is negative W per R. This tells us how much of one input of capital we have to give up to get one more unit of the other input, which is labor, and maintain the same level of total cost. A given level of output corresponds to a particular isocost. So, to find the minimum cost of the production, we pick the point on the isocost when it is touched with the isocost line. Thus, that point is the lower cost of production. Based on the figure, we can clearly see that the point where the isocost line and the isocost meet together are tangent, and it means the point is the minimum cost of the production. Furthermore, the slope of the isocost is the marginal rate of technical substitution. In this situation, we need to find out the amount of the point which consists of the lowest cost of production. Therefore, we can conclude that cost is minimized at the levels of capital and labor when the marginal product of labor divided by the wage is equal to the marginal product of capital divided by the rental price of capital. By using this solution to calculate the optimum point of the production cost, Longchamp can know better its ways to minimize their production costs. The administrative unit of Longchamp can hire the laborers and rent the capitals based on their targeted output by using this method, which helps them to produce their products effectively.
So previously, Agnes has explained the problem 3. So the solution for the problem 3 is pricing with market power theory, which is use price discrimination theory to classify the customer according to their preference, age and social class. Longchamp should use first degree, second degree and third degree price discrimination theory. Now, this is the first degree price discrimination, which is to practice the charging of each customer their reservation price. The reservation price is the maximum price that a customer is willing to pay for the good that they want, and for customers that at higher social level who are willing to pay maximum price. Longchamp can charge consumer at their reservation price by allowing customers to customize their bag with their own preference like materials, designs and colors. We know the profit Longchamp earns when it charges the single price P star in this diagram. To find out, we can add the profit on each unit produced and sold up to quantity Q star. The profit is the marginal revenue minus marginal cost for each unit. For additional unit, MR falls and MC rises, so Longchamp produces the total output Q star where MR equals to MC. The total profit is simply the sum of profits of each unit produced as between the MR and MC curve. As long as demand exceeds MC, Longchamp can increase its profit by expanding the production until it produced at Q double star. So moving on to second degree price discrimination, where Longchamp can discriminate according to the quantity consumed. This price discrimination operates by charging different prices for different quantities or blocks of the same good. Longchamp can give the purchasing agent at the lower price compare with the consumer because they will buy in a large quantity. But we should know that the consumers are willing to pay at a higher price at the first block only. Then after, consumers keep purchasing many units of a good over any given period, their reservation price declines with the number of units purchased. This diagram consists of 3 blocks with corresponding prices of P1, P2 and P3. By this price discrimination, Longchamp better off by expanding output at a lowering cost. In this case, if the economists cause AC and MC to decline, the government agency that control rates may encourage block pricing because Longchamp produce output in a large quantity but in a lower cost. This policy can increase the consumer welfare while allowing the greater profit for the company. The next is third degree price discrimination. This price discrimination divides consumer into 2 or more groups with separate demand curve and charging different price to each group. Longchamp can divide their customer into groups according to the social class. For example, one group for the lower income consumer and another group for the consumer who have higher income. So Longchamp can maximize their profit. This diagram shows that the consumer are divided into 2 groups with separate demand curve for each group. The group 1, which has the demand curve of D1 and charged at price 1, who is the higher income group. The next group is group 2, which has the more elastic demand curve D2 is charged at price 2 and this group has the lower income. Q1 and Q2 are the chosen so that MR1 equals to MR2 equals to MC. Total quantity is the sum of MR curves, which is MR1 and MR2 equals to MRT, which is the marginal rate of transformation. Next, I am passing to Marwan to conclude our presentation.
Conclusion. Nowadays, Longchamp is a famous French luxury leather goods company. Their products are called optimistic luxury. However, we still can find out several problems in their business model in the case study. Problem found is currency fluctuation and higher import tax in China, high production costs in Longchamp, and do not classify based in customer preference. The first problem of Longchamp is currency fluctuation. It can be solved by using demand and supply analysis theory, that is, the role of government in reduced tax. In addition, the second problem is high production cost. Longchamp should use MRTS to produce output at the minimum point and it will reduce their production cost. Lastly, the third problem of Longchamp is do not classify product based on customer preference. Longchamp also need to use price discrimination theory to classify the customer according to their preference, age, and social class. In a nutshell, the problem that we found in the case study of Longchamp can solve by the microeconomic theories. It can help Longchamp to minimize the cost of production and increase the range of customer to achieve maximum profit. That's all for me. Thank you.